So that you're trying to say that sometimes your newer idea may be better than the original one.
Yes. But it may also lead to one thing. It may lead to the story becoming longer and becoming more complicated. This is a risk you might have to take. You will have to weigh the pros and cons. Keeping to the outline is a good thing, but you must give your muse free run.
Okay. Alright, so in the process of completing, now is where I'm talking about the process itself. In the process of completing the pet project, okay, what are some of the important stuff that the writer ought to do in order to see through the entire business of writing a good story?
Always make time for writing.
Okay.
For example, admittedly, everybody works and has responsibilities to see to.
Okay.
Make time for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
At least an hour per day where no one know what bothers you. That's your private time. Okay. Leave your problems out that door. When you close it shut, nothing bothers you in that very room when you do your writing. Consider it your communion, if you will. Your prayer time.
Okay. Alright. So any more things to say?
You may not get far. Sometimes the effort of putting in so much time, you may get at best 2 sentences. At worst, at best, you may get several paragraphs. Be ready to deal with this. It happens. But keep going.
I see. Seems like writing a good story is not that easy as it seems.
It is.
So, how do you create your characters? Maybe you can share with us, briefly share with us your methods and tips on how you create interesting characters for your stories.
Alright. I will start with the physical part of the character. This is the easy part. Look around you. Look at the fashion magazines. If you need to fix them up with clothes, hell, I like my guy to look hot and my girl to look even hotter. The physical part is the easy part. The hardest part is your personality, their motivations. That is the challenge.
So one would have to jot down the personality that he wants his characters to be first, right, on the piece of paper.
That's the basic blueprint. But be prepared to do one more thing with your characters and be prepared for them to be unpredictable. With that unpredictability comes a spark of life that makes characters human.
I see. So you are supposed to bring your characters to life, but first you need proper planning.
You will at least need a blueprint of said character. Easiest way to do so is, I will use our Frederick here as an example.
Okay.
He hired me, so it's fair. I suppose I can use him as well. One way, use what you know about him, and then you start changing his chief trait characteristics. And after you start changing those chief trait characteristics, see how his personality shifts. For example, if I were to pull his temper quotient higher, he would be more easy to anger. The smallest thing might set him off. I put his pride quotient higher. He would take steps to make sure he never loses face.
So it's all a matter of tweaking
the personality, the basic personality of an individual you've met or you have known. Hell, even your mother can be a good project character. Just don't let her know that you are the one doing psychological analysis on her, or she'll strangle the life out of you.
Alright, so I shall proceed to the next point that I want to stress.
Yeah.
Now, for me, I do think that anyone can be a writer. Do you think that anyone can be a writer?
It will not be easy.
Well,
because being a writer is not only just writing. Being a writer is living as well. Without living as everybody else you see around you, how do you know what they feel, why they think the way they think, what are their motivations? When you have that, you can capture them. You can elevate them as well.
Okay, for the benefit of our budding writers who may be listening in right now to us, I believe that there is this strength in certain areas whereby certain writers, when they want to write, especially budding writers, when they want to write certain stories, right, I believe they have certain strength in them and certain weakness as well. So for instance, some people are good at description, so their stories will be really descriptive to the point you can enjoy reading it and seeing that that what they are actually seeing in the story reflects on how the authors were actually thinking. For some others, they may be good at forming dialogues within their stories such that people enjoy reading about these characters being brought to life in the story itself. David Eddings, for example, is really good in this. His characters are actually sometimes witty. Okay, so what is your advice for budding writers who are weak at description? How would you advise them to describe a scene, for instance, such that it would make the scene believable and real in the mind of the reader?
Alright. For one thing, being a writer also means being a reader. That means you will have to read a lot. Every writer you meet has a way of doing things. Each has his own. How do I put it?
His own way of expressing.
His own way of expressing.
Mm-hmm.
The easiest way I can put it is he has his own style of magic.
Okay. His own style of writing.
His own style of writing, but the best it's a more closely his own essence.
Okay.
Every author you read will be different from another, and there are hundreds over the thousands, maybe the world over.
So, what is your basic advice for budding writers who wants to write good descriptive story?
First, you read books that can help you with that. Novels, perhaps. The Stephen Pressfield one, like I mentioned earlier in the conversation, will give you a hand.
Okay.
The second, sit down in a quiet spot, make an image of that very moment that you want to put into word.
Have a scene in your mind.
Have a scene in your mind.
Yeah.
Have the scene in your mind. For example, I will make it easy. If you are describing a battle scene, put yourself in the shoes of one of those soldiers. If you are a green soldier, you are gonna piss in your pants, you're gonna be shaken, and you are gonna be wondering when the next moment will be your last. If you are a veteran, you will not be so easily shaken. You will know what to do. You will know how to react. You are an elite. You will be putting a middle finger in the other guy's general direction and saying, "Bring it on, brother. There is a 7.62mm round with your name on it." That's the feeling. You put yourself there.
So what about those who are weak in forming dialogues in a story? I mean, I understand that certain pieces of conversation within a story are necessary, and certain pieces that are not necessary to be included in a story. So how do you explain, or maybe how do you advise budding writers to write an effective piece of conversation?
All right. Do not do what I do, but sometimes when I do plan conversations, I talk to myself. That means I take the role of multiple characters. I'm not MPD, mind you, to do this.
All right.
The other way, write down the conversation and try to keep it within the personality of said character.
I see.
If you want to spring a little bit of a surprise, say you want to show one side of a guy or a girl, male or female character, that is a good time to show. For example, a cold-hearted SOB may show to have a warm side, that veneer of cold aloofness is just a mask to hide his other self. That means the conversation can reveal the character.
Okay.
Sorry if I'm a little bit off on this one. It's a bit hard even for me to explain that particular point.
I see. Alright. So, right. Now, speaking about writing stories, Spiritblade, for those who wants to write a series, for example, I understand that some stories come in series form. Not all of them are short stories.
No.
Okay. What are the recommended number of chapters do you think a story should have?
It depends on how long you want the story to be.
Okay.
How long will it take for you to bring that story to an end?
Okay. I was having a conversation with you the other day, and you said that for the stories that we might be embarking on, we will be targeting about 15 chapters.
Those will only be the opening chapters. You are making a world so that others can write in and about them. It has to set a solid foundation of a new era.
I see. So you're talking about writing a milieu, setting up a world. And
It's not a milieu. We are not talking token here. If you want a milieu, read token. That is about a world, its inhabitants, its traditions, its way of life.
Middle Earth. Yeah.
Middle Earth.
Uh-huh. Okay.
That is a milieu. That takes years of work. You'll have to quite literally, teleport yourself to that world and live and walk and breathe and fight through it. Of course, you will not have the honor of meeting someone that 10-foot giant is gonna swat you back into earth with one blow. And that's most likely your wife or your boyfriend.
Okay. So finally, what are your final word of advice to our listeners? Some of them who might be budding writers here themselves. What are your final word of advice then?
Do your best. Write for yourself. Reach for a high standard. This is the only thing you can do for yourself. Nobody else can put it for you. For as long as you ascribe to high standards, none can ever say that you are of a low standard.
Okay.
And I look forward to reading your stories.
Alright, thanks for being here on this show, pal. That's it for tonight. Spiritblade, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, I'm signing off, and do stay tuned for my next audio show at The 7 Words. And to all readers out there, ganbatte for your pet project, and do not give up when you are faced with setbacks. You will make it through. Stay cool. Goodbye.